I'm Jacob Rosenthal. Blaine Buwitz will follow me. We're Project Sophon. We were Dark Forest's round 5 winners, and since then have become Dark Forest plugin authors and interoperability folks, as well as sort of ZK game sort of a quick start type tooling research. So this talk is Interop is not free, sadly. So we're mainly coming from an aspect of sort of long-term devs, but first time Solidity devs, and trying to understand how to interop. So mostly I have for you questions more than answers. So first I'm going to presume you want permissionless interoperability and network effects, or you're probably not building on blockchains. There's probably a better place for you to be. But that's kind of also the problem, which is that every project on Ethereum is 100% fully open, permissionless, and so that means nobody is in actuality, right? Because again, my claim is it's not necessarily free. Look at some notes here. And so that's so everyone kind of wants to claim or throw on the term like metaverse, right, and interoperability. If it compiles, ship it is, I guess, let's say, and so maybe go ahead and ship it. But I'm going to make an argument that if it compiles, ship it, but it doesn't mean it's interoperable. So the first big bold claim is that every player of your game or contract, you could say, but for every player of your game is actually a new hire being onboarded into your company. That's what it means to have all these people be stakeholders in your contract and in your metaverse and in your universe. So your game has to be well documented, understandable, runnable. If I go to your GitHub page or whatever it is, and if I start the thing, it has to actually work. And just so many often, we all know that so often it just doesn't anymore. It's been rotted. And ideally it should be modular, right? Because the reason I want to run your thing is because I want to bring it all up online so I can pull out one thing and put something else, hopefully, and I can interop with it. So I guess this is my sort of one of my claims, which is to say, like, you think if when you have someone, a new hire or an intern comes to your company and you have to do 2 weeks of onboarding with them and you're doing Zoom calls and then I would argue your game is not actually interoperable, because that you can't do that with your hopefully 100 million users who are going to play your game, right? So interoperability today, what does it look like? It's scripting existing game calls. So if like we can do a move in Dark Forest, or we can reveal a planet or something like that, we can mix and match a couple of these. Maybe you could do something where if something happens in one contract, like a different game, then it could happen in Dark Forest. Selling game items, NFTs, strategies, like we have a lot of map data people sell, or just information. And frankly, a lot of that is not on chain. People just are selling that in Discord, things like that. Or incentivizing otherwise mundane actions in the game. You could see interoperability being, so one thing to think about is like that smart contracts are like, I think Brian always says this, that they are like a tiny anti-cheat server, right? So instead of having a giant monolithic AWS infrastructure-based game server for AAA game, you have this tiny anti-cheat server, and basically everything around that can or will be changed, modified by your users, whether you want them to or not. And so this is kind of what we can do today, but it's a little limiting. So that really, as like a third-party dev or whatever, all I can really largely do is like limit the existing rules. So like if you built the physics of the game and the anti-cheat of the game, and let's say we can walk on 2 legs, I can sort of incentivize people to walk on 1 leg, or I can incentivize them to use an emoji, which is for our company, and we'll sponsor that. So we can play little games on top of the game, but all the games are like childhood games where it's like, I bet the floor is lava, don't touch the floor. And the floor is not lava, but you'll see a bunch of people running around on couches and you won't know why they're doing that. And that's really cool, but it's just not the metaverse though. They're little childhoodish games, if you ask me. So again, my other sort of bold claim, I guess, today is that client mods and NFTs are just table stakes. They're not the metaverse that everyone keeps talking about. And so I don't know how to get there, but I think we want to get to something more. And smart contracts are the native language of blockchain. So we're going to talk, and we've done a lot of client extensions, and that's awesome to have someone swap your client out and have them play a farm game on top of your space game, and just all the planets become farms and carriages and knights and princesses, but it's the same game. That's really cool. It's amazing, but it's not the metaverse everyone keeps talking about. We need extending Solidity to be as easy and as safe as like client-side hacking. And as like a first-time Solidity dev, it's not that right now. And as someone who sort of tries to help bring other people, make other people third-party developers on something like Dark Forest, that's just not happening yet. So maybe Interoperability Tomorrow is calling into other like user contracts or other games, having Dark Forest itself trust itself to call into other things. Let the ZK dungeon people have been talking about this possibility. It's still not built yet, but like, could the user offer some sort of strategy for how games would resolve or how battles would resolve? And you've got the, like say the Dark Forest game calls in and swaps out that contract for a different lets the user pick which way it resolves. You could see like DAOs or users themselves controlling just the base physics instead of saying everyone should hop on one leg, or like let's say like whatever, changing the weather of the entire universe, or changing like if I have enough space in the universe or something, could I change the weather in my area? And like universes within universes, how do we do all that? And how do we do that kind of like smart contract type coding that isn't going to be client side necessarily? So like, why isn't that happening now? This is, I guess, what I think, which is that current Solidity smart contract patterns are in opposition to interoperability. Contract size, gas size, safety are, if you're designing for these things, which you are, if you're a contract developer today, you're trying to keep your contract size under like 24K or whatever it is. So you're splitting out your contracts into smaller contracts using a lot of libraries. You're doing heavy optimizations on your each of your contract calls, which makes them more opaque and harder to understand. You're making smaller surfaces of attack because you want just like 2 or 3 functions in your contract that can be called so that you can't be attacked. But that really limits the ability of someone from the outside to mix and match and do weird things. If I only have 3 entry points, that's all I can do, and I can't differentiate myself from someone else. I mean, so we've got 3 entry points and got like whatever, a bunch of people who are using, there's like whatever, 9 possible combinations of me calling those entry points. It's not as exciting as the metaverse, right? The metaverse is me having much more open sandbox to play in. So yeah, what we're seeing when we were trying to mod Dark Forest stuff was that, again, I would like to see more composable calls and more internals like exposed. That could just mean making your things public. Again, it's going to be against your security considerations, which says like anything that shouldn't be public. But as much as you make things public, allows us to remix and replace and make new weirder things happen. Libraries are used heavily, but they're tough because every time you have a library, you're privatizing all the stuff inside of that. So we actually had to have the Dark Forest guys make a library called public for us, and that's awesome. They did that, but that's not permissionless interoperability. Me asking them to do something for us is the opposite of that. And so what we had them do is like go ahead and just make that call, make a facade to that call, so we can make it public and use that. And then this is sort of the same thing like other games can call in. Oh, and we've been talking to Justin this week and stuff. The diamond pattern is sort of interesting, I think, because I think the diamond pattern could let you limit your library use and actually facade through those calls. So I think the diamond pattern might fix a little of this and have more functions be callable. Again, you have to cut those facets and I think make those things public, but it's possible that preferring public and using more diamond pattern might make more stuff accessible by default where it's not as accessible when it's a library, at least with my Solidity knowledge. So there's just one more rant here is that upgrading in contracts is kind of interop hostile. So yes, the terms are much smaller in games. We're not DeFi, but interoperability. If I connect, so if we're being interoperable, I could make a marketplace that Dark Forest doesn't like, and if they're upgradable, that means I could audit my usages against them and make sure that it's functioning. It's like a good pattern that I won't break. And ideally, I don't want to be upgradable because like Dark Forest, you guys trust. You don't know who Project Sofon is, right? So ideally, the money amounts are small and how much escrowing we're doing is small, but we really don't want to trust me. So I want to make a non-upgradable contract if I can. But if I make mine non-upgradable and they upgrade and break me, that sucks for me. And all your stuff could be stuck. So that sucks. But number 2, again, like I'm making markets on top of their game. at any point they could decide they don't like what I did. Like I could do something that sort of hurts the rules of their game. I could make it snow every day or whatever, right? And eventually they could be like, we want to fork this guy off the game. We don't like this, but that's not permissionless, right? And so they could poison pill me, hurt my users, hurt. So it's you know, this is the whole code is law argument. We don't have to really rehash it much, but I do think we're going to be in the upgradable world for a long time. But we do need to eventually, I think, get back to thinking about immutable code and being able to, yeah, just understand that's infectious and it goes all the way up the chain. So if you're upgradable, I probably have to upgradable, which means that people need more trust in me. I think that's worse. So yeah, kind of the end is just, I don't think Interoperable is free, sadly. It's explicit work that you're going to have to do. You can advertise you're in the metaverse. You can advertise you're a sandbox. Everything's immutable or interoperable on Ethereum, but I kind of think not a lot is right now. And it's not everyone's fault. I think it's literally the gas optimizations, size optimizations, security optimizations, which are the right thing to do, minimize your ability for people to have fun and to find things that you didn't think of. And so I don't know how to fix that, but to keep thinking about it, talking about it, and hopefully you guys have some ideas for me on that kind of stuff as well.